And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. Farming and ranching are considered the two most stressful occupations, both physically and mentally. Unique factors associated with agricultural work may contribute to poor mental health outcomes and even suicide. We begin today's Open Connection with egg farmer Harvey Siemens.
My name is Harley Siemens. I am an egg farmer here in Manitoba. I live here on the farm with my wife, Brooklyn, and my 3 kids. I am a 4th generation egg farmer here at Siemens Farms. I farm here with my dad, Kurt. We have 1 employee here to help us. He is my brother-in-law, so it is a lot of family dynamics here at the farm. Main thing I'm passionate about is just providing good quality food for people across Canada, really, because our eggs get shipped across the country here. And I love to make sure our barn door stays open so that we can build up that trust in different consumers and they can understand that this is our livelihood. We're not doing it just to grab money, even though that is a big part of our operation, right? Because we have to live, but that we actually care for what we're doing. Being positive is the best way for us to portray us being in agriculture. If we always look down in the dumps, people think that we like to make excuses and we're complainers and stuff like that. And people don't like to hear, they would rather hear the good stories of how it's a family farm and how I wake up every morning, go to the birds, gather the eggs, and show what the good parts of what my job and what my life is. Some of the challenges in farming, there's so many different stresses involved of what happened during the day. You come home, it's not like, oh, you can just wipe it away. You still got to worry about those things. With different storms, are we going to get feed? It's not a 9-to-5 job. When you go in for supper, you can't just nicely click a switch and forget about it. So yeah, that definitely plays on a lot of people's minds. I think it's important to really just physically remove yourself from the farm, at least a couple of times a year, just to kind of digress and kind of take a good breather and come back re-energized and ready to go. For me, myself, I think anxiety is very true in my life. We've been doing a lot of things lately here on the farm. We've been building a lot of barns. When I go to bed, my brain doesn't shut off. You keep on thinking, oh, this has to get done. This project has to get done. Then somebody has to do this, right? And you just I don't want to sleep. You want to go back to work and you just want to get it done, right? And one thing that I've found that really helps me is the thoughts that are in my brain. To get them out of my brain, I got to write them down. So what I do is in bed, it's 1 o'clock and I'm like, list. Check on this, do this. And then I feel that if I can take those thoughts out of my brain, I can let my brain rest. I'm like, I won't forget it in the morning. And in the morning, then we can tackle these options. So that's been one way that I can deal with it. Another way is you just got to learn that not everything is going to be perfect. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, a little bit anal about some things. And you got to understand that not everybody does everything exactly how you want it to. And that's okay. When we were building our barns, there was a lot going on. I was newly married, just moved into the farmhouse, and we're building millions and millions of dollars of barns, right? So a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety there. And I clearly remember one time, it was after I ate a meal, and I get bad heartburn, and I got heartburn, and that led to a really bad anxiety attack. I said, you know what, Brooke's my wife, I said, I can't breathe. So I went to the hospital and got calmed down by a pill, went back home, slept for a bit and woke up. I'm like, I still have it. Had to go back and get even more pills. And they said, yeah, just take it easy. I'm like, well, yeah, easy for you to say. You don't have to go and build all these barns, right? So the next day I go back and built the barns. And they're like, well, you should really stop with that anxiety, like minimize that. I said, yeah, okay. So what do you want me to do? Sell everything? It's not as easy just to say, oh, you should minimize your anxiety in your life. Maybe maturity and getting older, understanding that, okay, I can take a break with some things and ease up with that. And when I feel that coming down, just go in the shower, have a nice, just totally relax and go on with your day. If you had asked me 5 years ago, it would be a stigma. Don't really talk about, you got to show that you're strong. I think it's starting, the next generation, they understand that we aren't perfect and just suck it up. It doesn't work anymore. Because just sucking it up, it may work 1 out of 10, but then that person, they're making concessions somewhere else. So I think talking about it is starting to really come out, and I think people understand that everybody has to deal with it. They deal with it in different ways. There's not one person perfect. Not one person has a theory that this is exactly how it has to be and this is how you get through it, right? Every person's different. So I think it's important that we talk to interviews like this so that people can understand, oh, that person did this and this kind of helped him, so maybe we should try that, right? I think that's very important to do that. When people have issues, they may not know that they're having anxiety. They may not know that they're having stress. Instead of giving a person 80 million things, well, do this, do this, do this, do this to try and help it, it's more just listen and then kind of pause with them. And then instead of telling them what to do, maybe ask them different questions about it and say, oh, why do you feel like that? Like, what's your draw? And then you can say, oh, you don't have to necessarily tell them, oh, you're having an anxiety attack, but just like, okay, you know what? It's actually okay. And then try and bring them down that way. In that type of situation, when somebody comes to you, I don't believe it's the right thing to tell the person how they're supposed to think and how to believe. That can make it worse. I know Egg Farmers of Canada, they have a Young Farmers program, and they talk about all the different struggles and different things that farmers, especially young farmers, go through. First thing that I would say to those people is you're not alone. There are people around that can help you. The next thing is that your family is just as important as your job. Make sure that you invest in them because you will get that back and that will help you preserve. And like we talked about before, that's going to give you purpose to wake up the next day, to provide for them and understand that you want to keep your business and whatever's going so that they may even have just the opportunity to carry that on. I think it's super important for people to hear my story, to talk to people. And if I even help one person, that's already a win, right? And who knows, if I talk about this and let's say somebody has suicidal thoughts, and just because hearing a little something that I said, if that helps that one person, that's totally worth it for me. And I have nothing to hide. Again, opening the barn door, showing what our life is. And our life isn't just about what I do in the barn, it's about when I go home and different things like that. So I think it's super important to have all aspects of farming life talked about.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. Founded in 1993, Together We Can Addiction Recovery and Education Society's mission is to educate and support people and their families who struggle with the challenges of substance misuse and then desire a new life in recovery. Let us return to the conversation with Ryan.
My name is Rowan. Right now I'm working for Together We Can at their Solid Ground House. Right now I'm really just I'm trying to find out who I am. After spending so many years in addiction, I kind of lost that. So I'm trying to figure out who I am personally, and what I am truly passionate about. I work at one of Together We Can's houses. I really enjoy helping people, being there for guys and showing them when they come in that this is possible, that it is possible to get better. So I grew up in a relatively normal childhood. Parents divorced, but they weren't. They were good parents. They tried their best. There is a history of addiction in my family. My dad is an addict, but he was always he always cared, and he did the best with what he could. I grew up got good grades in school up until about middle school. Once I hit middle school, I kind of started experimenting a little bit with pot and alcohol, so forth, and then it progressed into harder and harder things. felt kind of out of place a lot of times. And when I found drugs and alcohol, it brought me comfort, and it brought me a sense of belonging. It gave me a chance to fit in with the cool kids. And although when as it progressed, further and further, it brought me into a deep depression. I found myself ostracized from a lot of my friends, a lot of relationships, majority of my family. Through the stigma there is with addiction, there was a lot of them wanted nothing to do with me after it progressed. And I'm 23 now. I've been trying to get clean since I was 18 years old. It took some time. It's been a roller coaster, but I never gave up. I'm 8 months clean now. People were starting to find out about my addiction. Nobody was quite sure, and a time came where I had to come out and admit that I was an addict, and I was struggling with a heroin addiction. I remember being terrified that when I did eventually tell my parents that they were gonna not want nothing to do with me anymore, that they would disown me or that I wouldn't have them in my life anymore. Once I found out that there was a place like this, it might not have happened right away, but I knew there was a spot for me, like a spot where I could fit in and speak openly and not be scared of judgment. When I finally did come clean with my family, thankfully my mom, she was very helpful. She wanted to do what she could to help. She got me into treatment right away. I remember showing up here for the first time being terrified, not knowing what was going to happen, just full of fear. Although once I did arrive here, everyone did their best to make me feel comfortable. It was amazing coming here. Like it's truly a beautiful place. Going through with withdrawals is one of the worst experiences I've ever had, especially this time before I came through. It's like the flu times 100. Cold, sweat running down my face, so much pain throughout all of my body. It can be quite terrifying at times. I remember sitting in the hospital. I wanted to kill myself, and that was the day I chose to reach out. Just thank God that this place was here, and that was 8 months ago. Before coming here, I had no hope for life. I was done. Now I'm excited for my future. I'm excited for what life holds for me in sobriety and recovery. I've heard from a lot of people that they just don't know what to do, that they don't know who to reach out to for help, and I want to be there for those that I can. I want to show them that it is possible to recover from addiction. Be safe about your experimentation. That's the main thing I want to say. Practice harm reduction. Do a little bit of research about what you're going to be taking. There's drug tests like testing kits you can buy online. They're not expensive. They're relatively cheap, which you can test your drugs to make sure there isn't something like fentanyl, or just a test to make sure it is what you think you're taking. Recovery is possible. We do recover, and to reach out. I understand there is quite a bit of stigma around addiction, but to find someone that you feel you can trust to help you find that help. And again, just like if you are going to be using drugs, to be smart, to be safe, and really that it can happen to anyone. It's not a selective disease, and it is a disease. It's been in the DSM for years, decades. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, to either be of help or not judge them or yourself for what you're struggling with. We all struggle with our own issues, but we aren't alone, and it is, as I've said before, there is a community out there that is very, very accepting and very willing to take you in, and the help you need is out there.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. In early societies, alcoholic beverages had multiple uses. First, they had important nutritional value. Second, they were the best medicine available for some illnesses, especially for relieving pain. In the next two segments, Robin Merrill shares her journey with alcohol.
I've always been in the health profession for the past, I guess you could say, 40 odd years now. And so I ended up getting into personal training and have owned a boxing studio for the past 8 years in New Westminster. And during that time, I got working with people with Parkinson's disease. I ended up giving up my private clients to work solely with people with Parkinson's for the last 3 years. I think my addiction, it probably started when I was a teenager, partying and things like that. I was a nerd. I was like a complete nerd growing up. Drinking wasn't really part of the picture. On weekends it was, go to dinner parties or going out for dinner and things like that with my family and friends. But it didn't really take hold until I was about 33, 34. My husband and I had just split up, and we had been together for 6 years, and he didn't drink at all. And I think it was kind of like a rebellion, right? Like, we split up, and I was like, oh, yes. And I started drinking, and it got bad very quickly. I would wake up at home not knowing how I got there. Even fortunate that I got home, because I would not have remembered most of the evening. I remember one time we had, my friends and I had been drinking after work, and then we were heading to another pub not far from work, and that's all I remember. My friends, turns out they were looking for me for hours and hours. What I do remember is waking up at home in the morning with a black eye, cut up nose, missing backpack. I couldn't figure out what had happened. I honestly, and to this day, I don't really know what happened. The night drinking turned into day drinking and night drinking and 24-hour drinking. I got to the point, I think it was probably early April, where I realized that I couldn't go on like that anymore. And so I tried to kill myself. I didn't tell anybody. And it was about 2 weeks later, my brother-in-law phoned me, and he's actually the one that reached out to me, and he said, hey, I noticed something's going on. Something, really, really not good is going on. I was being defensive and whatnot. And so then it ended up being a conference call with my brother-in-law's wife, which is my sister. So the three of us were talking, and I actually told them what I had done. And so that was my cry for help. First time I've ever told or admitted to anybody that, I'm not going to be, naive here. My family knew I had a drinking problem. I tried detox twice, but it was probably my first time ever really reaching out and saying I need help.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Alcohol addiction is a chronic relapsing disorder associated with compulsive alcohol drinking, the loss of control over intake, and the emergence of negative emotional state when alcohol is no longer available. In this final segment of Open Connection, Robin shares her next steps after asking for help.
Well, it was a long process. I mean, I guess it wasn't that long in the scheme of things. So that started in April, and I finally decided to go to treatment in August. For me to finally come to that decision, I had this real stigma about going to treatment, and I did not want to go. I was like, there's no way I can go away for 3 months. I still have some clients that I was able to hold on to, and I still, I have a house and I have cats and bills to pay and, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, there's no way. And so it took me, like I said, it took me a while to come to that decision. And once I made up my mind, I made up my mind. You can survive that. I figured I can survive anything. I learned to knit while I was there. And so knitting, I think, sort of saved my life while I was in there. And it's kind of cool because I've now started a business from that. And I do, well, this is one of mine. So I've started a business called Robin Constantia Designs. And it's all different. I design and knit sweaters and soft furnishings and things like that. One of the things I've noticed is that I can get so much more accomplished in a day. And it's an incredible feeling, like absolutely incredible. I still have my days when I sit on the couch all day, and that's okay, that I can do that once in a while. I get up in the morning and I've got this routine now, and I can just get so much more accomplished. Before, I'd start drinking, say 4 o'clock in the afternoon was probably around my time. And then my whole evening was gone. And now I'm working on my art again, and I'm doing my silversmithing and my knitting, and I'm getting into leather work, and I'm doing all this stuff that I always wanted to do, but I always fooled myself and said I didn't have the time to do it. And now I have all this time, and I'm not bored. Every single day that I wake up feeling good, not hungover, is a triumph for me. Being present for people, being able to have a normal conversation with my friends on the phone, my family on the phone. I didn't have the energy before to even carry on a decent conversation. So that's a triumph there. If there had been something like this, the Stigma-Free Society, around when I was a teenager, when I was going through emotional and mental problems, but I never talked about it, I didn't know what was going on with me, and I really feel that if there had been something like this back then, I wouldn't have gotten into the situation that I got into as an adult. So I want to go on living a stigma-free life. I'm happy to talk about it. I feel that if I can help just one person to reach out and talk about my story, then I've done a wonderful thing.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection with mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.